So. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to Planning Commission tonight. If you would like to make a comment, either a public comment or a comment on a particular project, there's some slips by the door you can fill out and bring them up front. And we'll get you on the schedule to speak. So with that, can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Stacy, would you like to lead us?
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Can we get a roll call?
Chair Allgauer, Vice Chair Hicks,
Here.
Commissioner Beck,
Here.
Commissioner Chester. Here. Commissioner Higginson.
Here.
Commissioner Snodgrass.
Here.
And Commissioner Vitt. Thank you.
And then I do want to note that Chair Allgauer and Commissioner Vitt both identified that they will not be able to attend tonight's meeting. And so they are excused.
He's actually had knee replacement surgery about, I think it's been 3-4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks now, and has had some problems with it, an infection. He's back in for additional surgery today. So our thoughts and prayers are with him and hope he recovers well. All right. So minutes from the last meeting?
First, we can do public comment on items not on the agenda, and then we'll
Okay.
move to the consent agenda. And we do have one public comment slip.
Hanson Wong.
Mr. Wong?
Good evening. My name is Hanson Wong from 35150 Court Street, Yucaipa, California. And before I start on my other comments, if any of you actually contact or have communications with our commissioner, I'd like you to give him our best and hope he recovers fast.
Thank you.
There are so many changes. We heard some of them on Monday night from the laws of the state of California and all the things they want to do. And they're pushing every direction to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Some of it means streamlining, some of it means avoiding CEQA and so on like that. And that's okay up to a point. So my two main comments are the streamlining should be at a point where there is oversight by the commission so that you have at least a general view of what's going on, if not specific views, and that it doesn't go on an automatic AI basis, since the AI is on the agenda these days. Secondly, even though they've omitted CEQA on a lot of it, and it's not mandatory, and that's up to the state how they want to do it. But on some of the things, I think that our commission and our city council members should at least look to make sure that we're doing the right things for our city and make sure, if there's traffic impact or water or sewage or whatever, that we manage it before it gets out of hand. And that's all. Thank you so much for allowing me.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Okay.
All
So
right, no more comments on this, so the next item would be the consent agenda, which is the minutes from November 1st.
okay. Everyone have the minutes? I think Stacy and Richard were absent, so can we approve those with just 3 votes, or?
I think in light of that, it may be worthwhile just to continue the minutes, and then hopefully we'll have the 4th member necessary, and we can approve at the next planning commission.
So we'll continue the approval of those till next meeting. Okay. Let's see. Ex parte communication, is that next?
Yeah, and we can do, if the commission would like ex parte communication on items 2 and 3, if anyone has any ex parte communications on either one, such as meeting with either neighbors, the applicant, or if you drove by the site, that way the other commissioners have the benefit of that information.
I drove by both sites today and walked the perimeter of the sites and with the plans to look at it. I had no conversations with anyone.
I drove by the sites. That hasn't been part of the ex parte before, though.
Usually if you kind of check it out, it's helpful to know, like, hey, I drove by the site, and then that way if you have a piece of information as part of your visual observation that's germane, then it's helpful to relay that. But,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
No, I also drove by the sites too.
None.
All right, so agenda item 1.
The public hearing, agenda item number 2, and if you would like, we can open the public hearing and staff will do the presentation.
Okay. I'm sorry, so we're on, okay, item number 2.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair and Planning Commissioners. Today we have item number 2, case number 21-191, a general plan amendment, land use compliance review and density bonus agreement, general plan amendment to change the land use district from RM10M, which is our multiple residential, to our RM24, which is our high density multiple residential, and a land use compliance review to develop a 3-story, 144-unit housing project with a density bonus request to increase the base density by 20%. That provides 12 affordable units, or 10% of the base density allowed at the low-income affordable level. The project is located across 4 parcels totaling 5.12 acres at 12249 14th Street. Lot merger will also be processed to consolidate all 4 parcels into a single lot, barring approval. So the site is located on 5.12 gross acres, located at the east side of 14th Street and north of Avenue D, south of Yucaipa Boulevard. Is designated as our RM10M, again, multiple residential, 10,000 square foot lot minimum size. It is currently vacant and relatively flat and has been regularly disked for weed abatement purposes. It is surrounded by other single-family residences and multifamily development with commercial to the north and Whippert's RV storage to the east. The site is further near amenities like the 13th Street Sports Park, Dunlap Elementary School, Yucaipa High School, and Crafton Hills College, and adjacent to a mixed-use corridor, which would allow RM24 and mixed-use development as identified by Yucaipa's housing element. Further, the site does have access to Yucaipa Boulevard. You can see it there. The general plan amendment portion of this project would encompass those 5.12 acres and would change the land use designation from RM10M into our RM24 land use designation. And changes to that multiple land use designation would increase the permitted density at the site. The general plan amendment meets the minimum district size of 5 gross acres per the Yucaipa Development Code. And so we'll talk a little bit about the proposed project alongside that general plan amendment. The project is designed per the proposed general plan amendment and would include a 144 multi-family apartment project. The project consists of a 3-story apartment building and a multi-purpose clubhouse, as well as amenities. The project would include 72 1-bedroom units, 58 2-bedroom units, and 14 3-bedroom units. As a part of the amenities provided for the project, as per the municipal code and exceeding the municipal code, it includes picnic areas, open space with common landscaping, private internal sidewalks, a clubhouse, pool, workout stations, and internal trails with barbecue area, and a landscaped drainage basin to maintain the historic flows of the site. To access the site and as a part of the circulation, there's ingress and egress along 14th Street with an additional emergency only fire lane at 14th Street to the south of the project. There are minimum 26-foot drive aisle throughout the project that can accommodate two-lane traffic as well as adjacent pull-in parking. And the site features additional internal walking paths for pedestrian connectivity. At this time, the project, or the proposed action does not include architectural review. An architectural review application will have to be submitted separately and evaluated by the Planning Commission at a future date. In addition, any conceptual landscaping plans, proposed monument signage, and wall plans would be evaluated. The applicant has provided conceptual elevations for the Commission's reference of the intended design, but it's not a formal review. So this is kind of the thought process of what they have proposed right now. It's sort of craftsman with the stone facade, but again, this is not a formal submittal at this point. The conceptual landscaping for this project include perimeter plantings with a mix of ornamental trees and shrubs that would be reviewed by the city's landscape architect and can be seen here. Additionally, there would be a density bonus processed alongside this project for a couple of different reasons. The density bonus request would covenant 10% or 12 of the base density units for the site as low income affordable. Pursuant to the Yucaipa density bonus standards, this would net a 20% increase to the density, as well as a density bonus concession for the project, which allows an alteration to the bedroom mix requirements. The Yucaipa Development Code requires 35% maximum one-bedroom units. The project proposes 50%. As noted before. Additionally, there's a reduction in the parking requirement per state law, and that's what this project is consistent with, as well as the Yucaipa Development Code. The city of Yucaipa is, as a note, responsible for providing low and moderate income units as mandated by state law. And as a part of this project, a formal density bonus agreement would be approved and evaluated by the city council. The environmental review of this project was prepared by on-call consultants in compliance with the CEQA guidelines and determined that all impacts could be mitigated to a less than significant impact, with notable measures including a nesting survey if grading is taking place during nesting bird season, as well as measures to reduce noise and vibration. As a part of the public notice of this project, notices were sent to all surrounding property owners within a 300-foot radius, and 3 phone calls and 1 written response were received. Comments identified concerns over loss of the view shed, how any general plan amendment would affect the use of a neighboring commercial site, which it wouldn't have an effect on, and a request that a block wall be placed around the project site. An additional comment was received with concerns over minority groups potentially moving in, which, as a note, is a fair housing and discrimination issue and not germane to this development. In addition to that 300-foot radius, a notice of public hearing was posted in the November 3rd, 2023 edition of the Yucaipa Calamasa News Mirror, and no responses were received in response to that. We have a couple of site photos of the site. As you can see, relatively flat, vacant parcel. And therefore, it is staff's recommendation that if the Planning Commission decides to support the approval, that they recommend to the City Council that they adopt Resolution 2023-57, approved by first reading, Ordinance 437, approve the density bonus request and land use compliance review, adopt the findings as contained in the agenda report, adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting plan, and direct staff to file a notice of determination. If you guys have any questions, staff are here tonight to respond to those, as well as the applicant and their representative.
Any questions, Commissioner, staff?
I have a couple. I just want to make sure I heard that the units that are being built in here will be counted towards the RENA numbers in the housing element that we submitted?
That would be correct. So if this project is approved and built, then we would get credit for the 144 units, including those low-income units that we are required to meet.
How many units total do we still need for the year? Do you know?
For the kind of yearly progress,
Yeah,
we're supposed to hit, I think about, I think it was like 350 or so thereabouts. I think we'll probably have 250 units that we need to do for that yearly progress of the 2866 units of our 8-year housing cycle.
so we'll need 250 additional, or this will bring us to 250?
This would close the gap further. But
Okay. And the project, if I read it correctly and heard you correctly, it meets all the development code for the city and the city housing element. You just mentioned that. So it meets all of the development codes for the city.
With approval of the density bonus agreement and general plan amendment,
Okay.
yes.
And I couldn't tell today because I couldn't, it had just been disked and I was sinking in up to my ankles. Is there access from Yucaipa Boulevard to this property?
There is not access to Yucaipa Boulevard.
That's it right now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, staff. First, I want to say, wish JR well. It's kind of odd coming here and not seeing him roll my eye or groan whenever I walk up here. So I hope he's doing well, and so we wish him the best. Thank you, staff, Christian, for all your hard work getting us to this point. We put a lot of time and effort in here to get to this point, and we think we really have a nice project that we're proposing to you guys today. A lot of emphasis has been put on the design of the building, creating a site that, will be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, as well as, creating, various amenities, to provide a, nice quality place to live. And so there's a little confusion on our end because we were under the impression that we were also proposing an architecture review at this time. So I guess on these plans that were included in the packet, those are going to be the same plans that when we do have to come back for this, those are the actual plans that will be reviewed. So something that we'll have to discuss with staff after this, but there's a little confusion on that end.
And if I may, if the Plan Commission, so this action itself does require city council approval, and so if the Plan Commission does have any feedback on the architecture, we can probably wrap it into the city council presentation. There may be some additional details needed on it, but we can, if there's any feedback, we can work through that.
Thank you. That's very appreciated. So to kind of get into our presentation, I usually would prepare something to kind of highlight the different aspects of the project, but I realize after doing this a handful of times that it's a little redundant, especially because how thorough staff is on the presentation. So my focus on this is really just to go through the findings and to, have that conversation through that planning lens of, what we're discussing here today. And so, the first finding is, the proposed project. Well, first off, this is on behalf of the Moss Family Foundation. They are the owners of this project. The Moss Family Foundation is a charitable corporation. One of the aspects of them is that they offer grants, to various people in need. So like an example would be the recent Maui fire. They had put together a grant that then went towards that relief, and so they do various charitable things. And so that's just a little bit of background about them. And so on to the findings. So the proposed project will not have a substantial adverse effect on the surrounding property. And so an initial study and an M&D was prepared to assess the potential environmental impacts from the proposed project, and it was found that all the potentially significant environmental effects or impacts would occur at a level that is considered less than significant. And so there are about, in reviewing CEQA, about 20 different categories that a project needs to review. That includes traffic, transportation, wildfire, travel resources, air quality, greenhouse gas. It just goes on. And so all those things have been considered in the review of this project, and it was determined that they will be less than significant impacts. But there's one in particular I want to point out because it feels like with every project, traffic is always is a main concern, and especially with adding more apartments, it's something that we wanted to put a strong emphasis on. And so when we review the traffic and transportation aspect of it, there's two criteria that we're really looking for, which is one is the level of service and the vehicles mile traveled. And so vehicles mile traveled essentially assesses how many miles that the occupants will typically travel, and the level of service, it measures the roadway capacity, and whether or not that these various sections of roadway will be able to handle the increased amount of traffic flow. And so during peak hours, it is anticipated that from this project, that the peak number of trips at any one intersection will be about 44 trips. And so that's peak hours. That's leave in the morning and come back at night. And so that 44 trips is below the threshold, that level of significance that's been determined by the City of Yucaipa traffic guideline requirements. And as far as VMT, we also are below those levels of significance as well. So as far as traffic goes, the different standards that are being applied, this project all falls below that. Another one of the findings is the proposed land use district has been referred to the public water purveyor. An adequate water supply exists or is planned that will serve the proposed project. As a part of any one of these development projects, if we're going to be providing water or sewer, one of the first things that we have to provide is a service letter from the water or the sewer company. So in this case, it was Western Heights Water Company for the water and the Yucaipa Valley Water District for the sewer. And we did get letters from both of them that do state that there is adequate infrastructure and facilities in order to be able to, and capacity in order to be able to service this project. Another one is the proposed land use district is in the public interest. There will be a community benefit, and other existing and permitted uses will not be compromised. And so approving this project and the proposed land use district change, it will bring much needed multifamily housing into the city. In the Yucaipa General Plan, there are a number of goals and policies that fit for this project, but there are two in particular that I want to point out. And so the first one is CDL 1.1, places to live. So it states, provide sites for a range of housing types, locations, and densities in a variety of neighborhood settings, equipped with amenities that support a high quality of life. And two, HN 2.1, balanced housing stock. Designate adequate land for a broad range of types of housing, including single-family attached and detached, multiple family housing, and mixed use located in accordance with the land use and community design element. So having a broad mix of housing types and places to live is important because housing is synonymous with the ebbs and flows of life. From the Yucaipa housing element, here's an expert. Different age groups have different housing needs based on lifestyles. Typically, younger households seek affordable renting opportunities as they begin their careers. As adults spend more time in the workforce and start to form families, they may seek larger homes and opportunities to build equity through home ownership. And then seniors may eventually choose to trade down larger homes that once accommodated children to smaller and more affordable homes. And so that's from the Yucaipa housing element that was recently adopted. Apartments play a key role for younger adults and families as they are typically not in a position to purchase a home. And unfortunately, the current housing stock is not set up to accommodate the younger adult and family demographic. And per the same housing element, there are approximately 20,339 total dwelling units within the city of Yucaipa. And of that, 93% of the entire housing stock is either a single-family residence or a mobile home. So there are 13,792 single families, 4,488 mobile homes, and there are 1,505 multifamily units. So 7% of that in total 20,000 units are only multifamily. So really the only real option for someone that's, graduating high school or graduating college, ready to move out of their parents' house. Their only real option is to scrounge up, enough roommates to be able to either rent one of these homes, or join a wait list for one of the very few apartment projects in town. So this also doesn't consider the ages of the units, as a large portion of housing in Yucaipa was built prior to 2000. And this really isn't just, the numbers that are being told to us. I have personally experienced this. When I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona, I came back home and started working for the city of Yucaipa. And when it came time to move home, where I lived my entire life, there was nowhere for me to go. So I found a few people to rent out a home in Loma Linda until eventually I was able to find my own place in Colton. But still, for all those years, I was having to commute in town because there's really was nothing here. So as a community benefit, the approval of the project, it will create an opportunity for this city to retain its young adults by creating more places for them to live. Additionally, this project also includes an affordability component, so it'll also be made available to people at various income levels in addition to just those demographics that I had mentioned. And so by approving this project, this will further both the city and the state's goal of providing housing opportunities for various income levels, as well as furthering the city's obligation to account for its housing needs. We got 3 more findings. The proposed land use district change is consistent with the goals and policy of the general plan and will provide a reasonable and logical extension of the existing land use pattern in the surrounding area. The surrounding properties are zoned multiple residential and general commercial, and the addition of the RM24 land use district will be compatible with the surrounding properties. Further, the city also, as one of its strategies for the housing element, was to create a development opportunity reserve, which allows for higher housing densities to be developed within particular commercial properties along Yucaipa Boulevard, which is directly adjacent to this project site. So that will allow for an appropriate transition to the commercial to multifamily, and then and then also the current zoning allows for multifamily dwelling units, and so the proposed project, it does consist of multifamily units. The only change is just the density of units that are being added. However, the impacts that are created by that increase in density were considered in the preparation of the M&D. Another finding is the proposed land use district does not conflict with provisions of this code or any applicable specific plan. The proposed land use district change does not conflict with the provisions of this code or any specific plan because the project has been designed to adhere to the RM24 development standards, and the subject property is not located with any specific plan area that would affect this project. And then lastly, the proposed land use district change will not have a substantial adverse effect on the surrounding property, like I mentioned earlier, as far as the adverse effect from the project. The M&D initial study, that's something that was all considered in review of this project. The district change itself will not have an effect on surrounding properties because it will not hinder the ability for any of those properties to be developed or developed further. Impacts generated by the project and general plan amendment, any potentially significant impacts will be mitigated to what is considered less than significant. And so just to kind of touch on some of the comments that were received, there was one written comment that was received with a request that a perimeter block wall be installed for the project. And so that is proposed with this project, is to do the perimeter block wall. And then one comment noted concerns that the apartments would bring an influx of crime. I do have a little demographic sheet from ESRI, which uses kind of a combination of census data as well as its own forecasts, and so it's a reputable statistic website. So according to ESRI, the city of Yucaipa has a crime index of 67, with the baseline being 100. And so this means that Yucaipa is essentially 33% below the typical amount of crime. And this information considers the broad spectrum of crimes such as burglary, motor theft, assault, and et cetera. And additionally, the project, is going to generate $1.2 million worth of development impact fees, as well as bring in more of a customer base for these local businesses, which you would think would just increase sales tax, which overall is going to bring more revenue into the city, which could potentially be used if council decided to add more police services or fire or just emergency personnel in general. And then just to conclude, this project, in our opinion, is a nice project. Like I said earlier, a lot of articulation has gone into the design. Wanting to bring something that will blend in with the neighborhood, while creating that high quality place to live and making Yucaipa, accessible to the younger generations. So. If you have any questions, I'm here, Craig is here, a couple members of the Moss Family Foundation are also here as well, and so thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners, for the applicant? Stacy?
One of the questions I have I know that there's going to be 144 dwelling units, but that includes looks like 58 2-bedrooms, 72 1-bedrooms, 14 3-bedrooms. And I did some average media on how many people the influx of people that would bring in. And approximately that's adding 446 more people to the population here in Yucaipa. So my question is, have you contacted the school district? How is that going to affect the schools? Does Dunlap Elementary, since it's going to be right there in proximity, can they accommodate? Can Parkview accommodate it? Can Yucaipa accommodate it? So have you guys spoken with a superintendent to make sure this influx of students is going to be able to be accommodated?
Well, yes, thank you for the question. Recently, I was at a presentation on a project in Calamasa, and Dr. Eric Bremen spoke for the school district for Yucaipa Calamasa, and brought up how severely low the attendance is for children in our schools. I mean, in some cases, 40-45% full. Yucaipa School District still had 10 to 20% available. The middle school is got like 800 open seats for students. I mean, in a city, and I hate to say this because I'm one of them, in a city that has become predominantly older, less kids, the schools are much more empty and are in bad need of students. The schools, they charge $8.10 a foot for school fees, which are very, very high, but needed, and that's what kind of has hurt for a while as far as housing production in Yucaipa, but things are going well now. There's several housing projects, but there are condos. They'll bring families, young families, and that's what we really need. We have some senior projects, but yeah, the schools are all less than full, and some of them by quite a bit. And the Dunlap Elementary School is the worst.
And with that, have you guys considered the traffic flow for this additional people? Because even though there's 144 units, if you multiply that by 2, that's still quite a bit more traffic in that area. So what does that look like for the community?
So we did a full traffic study. I mean, obviously, I'm happy that as someone that spent many years in Yucaipa, and my kids growing up here and going to school, I'm glad they widened the boulevard and did a lot of the things that have been done, new traffic signals and things like that, especially to help with the new businesses. But yeah, we did a full traffic study, a full traffic analysis. We were under the threshold anyway, and they don't just say, well, there's 144 units. They actually, make accommodations for how many vehicles that would be, and especially they also look at it as a multifamily project, a project that would have children, which normally has more trips, trips to school, more trips to soccer practice, baseball practice, things like that. So yeah, it was taken into consideration for sure.
That's all I have.
Okay. Rick? She asked part of the question, so you're good? Yep. Donna?
I have a couple questions. It says there's 180 parking spots for the units. How many of those are covered, and will they be covered, if they are, will they be covered with solar? Or the parking spots that are gray, that have the gray over them, are those, does that indicate covered parking? You don't have to count them.
It's, there's a dashed line that kind of goes around some of the parking spaces. So along the rear to the east, those two sections of parking will all be covered, and then as well as the kind of southernmost parking spaces when you first enter the site, those will also be covered.
Okay, and the solar, will there be a solar component?
Yeah, there will be. There has to be a solar component. And by the way, I think the parking spaces is 219.
Thank you. Hang on a second. That's what I get for following along and writing notes everywhere. Will the management be on site?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. I think it's more of just a kind of a relationship with the single-family residences in the area. And I appreciate the fact that you are agreeing to the block wall, because obviously there's always those activities. And I think I'm a little confused about the secondary fire lane. One site note says it's a fire lane, one says it's a secondary access or egress only. And I guess I'm just looking at how you control traffic or from residents going down that lane. Is that gate open during the day, or is that only open for fire access with Knox boxes? It's just an odd condition to me, so.
So that is a fire exit only,
Okay.
basically with a Knox box to get in.
Okay.
So I think it's just
I think it's
wrongly labeled.
Okay.
And it's because
Yeah,
it's
has,
also,
sorry.
I was gonna say, because it's the depth of the property, we have to travel so far, into it, that's why we have a secondary access point like that.
Well, is it normally open then for residents, or is it just strictly a fire lane?
Strictly fire.
Okay. I guess I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of if the residents in the way back decides to go down that fire lane to try and get out, they're kind of locked in. I'm just asking whether there's another gate proposed, and it's a minor detail to me, but it's just how you control that. And that may be something you have to work with the fire department on.
It would be an emergency exit in the case of a fire for people to get out, but I think there would be obviously signs or whatever towards the back
Okay.
corner to tell them fire exit only type.
And the other question I had was the relationship with the basketball court adjacent to the residents, because those tend to be, is that going to be lit?
No, it would be a daytime one only because of the resident. By the way, we at one point purchased that back part of that property.
Okay.
So that's how we ended up with that property. And it was originally many years ago when it was going to be a condominium project.
Okay.
It was purchased for the purpose of whatever recreational area to make it easier to design the site.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the sensitivity to the neighbors. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing in regards to that?
Yes.
One of the things that worked real well with this site, and I know that, everybody, is worried about what develops around them or whatever. One of the things that worked so well on this when it was a condominium and then with this, which I think works a lot better, is the nearest house on the borders of the apartments is 40 feet. Most of them are about 120 that face onto Avenue D. And I know I've talked to the Crawfords across the street before last time. We'll make sure that we help them to shield any way possible people coming out of there so they don't have light issues. And then, of course, the one side is Whippets RV, which, isn't an issue. And then besides the first house there, the other houses are very much up on the street and a couple hundred feet, several hundred feet back, in fact, from any of the buildings. And then one of them is a vacant piece there. So, I mean, we're very conscious about that, and we will make sure that there's, appropriate landscaping and stuff around the perimeters also for the neighbors.
Thank you.
I've got one quick question. On the retention basin, because this is such a large complex, have you considered possibly using that as like a grass area landscaping and building a retention basin under the parking lot with pervious concrete? Because I'm not sure there's any parks right around that area. City parks, is there?
I mean, there's local schools, I think, park-wise, obviously across Yucaipa Boulevard, there's areas in the ball fields, there's, no, I guess you're right, there's nothing that's right, like immediate to that.
Park-wise?
I think we could look at that when they do the construction drawings and they design the basin. Because sometimes it's, you know, a bioretention basin, sometimes a regular basin, and a lot of times we kind of make that a park area. So we certainly could look at that, and as we move forward with the construction plans, it's a good idea.
Okay, yeah, on this plan, it looks pretty big. You know, it's a big
Yeah.
We want
basin.
to make sure we have enough room for the water. So.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I think the closest park is the Little League fields, if you just go up the street a little
Up
bit.
the street,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, any other questions? Good. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and open for public comment.
Okay, and we have 3 speaker slips, so Maria will read the people, and
Thank you.
Don Crawford.
This one over here, sir. The next one over, sir.
This one better?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. If you could state your name and,
My name is Don Crawford, and my wife and I live across the street from this monstrosity. And next to us is a piece of property that belongs to both of us and my brother-in-law, my wife's brother. And we are really upset. In fact, it sickens me to see what's going on in Yucaipa. We've lived in Yucaipa since 1947, off and on, and just to see what's happened, it just makes me wish that it was never incorporated. I think we'd have been better off if we'd have stayed rural, unincorporated. We wouldn't have to put up with a bureaucracy like this. And I think you'd be doing us a disservice if you agree with this zoning change. And I wonder what's behind it all. I think you need to follow the money to see who's making a buck out of this deal. Because it's really strange that you would only change the zoning on one unit, one parcel in the whole block, all the way from Yucaipa Boulevard to Avenue D, which was all one zone before, is now going to be changed to one zone plus this thing. And I think in fairness to property owners in the area, you should either disregard this change in zoning or zone the whole block to this new zoning, because then we'd be able to develop it ourselves and recover some of the money we're going to lose from property value from this thing being across the street from us. And I don't know if that's been considered or not, but I'd like to know why you did this, why you picked just on one unit in the block, and why you moved it from the other side of Yucaipa Boulevard, which was the original plan, below the college, because I think a lot of these units would be available to college students, and it'd be better to have it just below the college on the opposite side of Yucaipa Boulevard. Now, why was that change made? And I just wonder what's behind all of this. So if you continue to make this this change, shame on you, all of you. You really make me sick. And I hope you think better of the people on 14th Street who have lived 60 to 70 years of their lives in this community, in this neighborhood, and you're disrupting that neighborhood by putting this thing where it doesn't belong. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next we have Hanson Wong.
Hanson Wong, 35150 Court Street, Yucaipa, California. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what our functions are. Our entitlement specialists, developers, whatever they want to be called, Mr. Heaps, his son, they're doing their job. Their job is to get the best things done for their particular clients and owners. And so they went ahead and got the amount of housing that's needed, got the density bonus, and now is asking for an amendment change, which is adding to the what is in the general plan. And again, that's his job, and he does it very well. I think the commissioners, as well as the city council, needs to look at how this affects the city, what is being done, and so on. There are a couple items I'd like to talk about. One, I didn't hear, but it's probably in the city planner's information that originally there would be 55 units, including the density bonus. And just so people and the city commission and the city council know that that's gone up to 144. The traffic in the peak hours, they said, was 44. I suppose it could be true, but it confuses me a little bit because there's 219 parking spots. There are many more than that people that are there. And to me, it seems like having 1/3 or less of the people in that area driving in and out during the time, and it's not senior, so most of them should be working or going to school or whatever. So I question the traffic in that area. I've driven in that area, I've looked at the property, and the street, I hope, will bear the traffic that they're talking about and possibly even more. You know, they talked about different things, Travis did, that are important to young people, new homeowners, and so on. Although, as I understand, these are apartments, and so there wouldn't be any equity, although it could be a first place to live until you save up enough money to go on. But I don't think I would consider building equity as part of this project. And so also being compatible with the neighborhood, I haven't seen anything in the neighborhood that quite looks like this. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but I'm not sure it's compatible as far as visualization. So we need to build more homes. We need to consider arena and so on. And so that if we make these projects as close as possible to the general plan with all the bonus densities, it probably would go through faster. As soon as you add additional elements, like changing the general plan and adding amendments or changing the code, it might delay it. You know, you don't know. But again, if we follow the code, follow the bonus densities, maybe there would be less disputes about this. So I think these are just some of the things for us to consider to try and get things through, meet our arena numbers, but yet maintain what is needed for the neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Next.
Next we have Teresa Buyu.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My home that I own is at 12282. It's directly across on 14th. I've had several of their tumbleweeds on my property, so I'm very close to this. There's several things that they talked about, but first thing I just wanted to say is that I oppose the proposed general plan amendment. Basically, the increased density is just going to be a lot more than what you can imagine. You don't live there. The people that are with me tonight live there, and we're shaking our heads because there's no way. I don't know, once they connected to, the freeway, being able to go both directions, it's very hard for us to get out of our driveway. And so imagine another 400 people or whatever you had figured out. I mean, it's not what is proposed. So this is something that we need to consider. This is not a minor amendment change. This is a major amendment change. And the people before me have already mentioned several things. Some of the, the first thing you think of I didn't realize it was an apartment complex. That usually decreases your value in your property. Also, the impact of the schools, I don't think that that's accurate either, because I am sitting with someone who also knows that they've had to use classrooms from the high school because there wasn't enough for the kids that are in the area. So I think that should also be reevaluated on that. Also, the utility, I don't know how they're going to end up with sewer. We all have septic systems. I don't know how this sewer is all going to happen. I've also heard that there was access from Yucaipa Boulevard, so I'm not sure what's going on with that either. So I don't know if everything has to come off on 14th Street or whatever. But I think there's a lot of items that need to be further explored. It is definitely a bad fit for this area. Let's see. The other thing I was going to say is that not only is there the decrease in the land values, it also alters our rural atmosphere of Dunlap, because that's Dunlap to me. When I was a kid, I'd come over and we'd do horse shows down there, and it's just a great little rural area, and you pop something like that in there and it's just like a big fish out of water. Yucaipa is known for its hometown, relaxed vibe, and I'm not opposed to development. You've already got a plan in place. Why not stick with what you've got? So I just don't think it's a proper fit for this area of Yucaipa, and I think many have already expressed that. In Redlands, we wouldn't be allowed to have this kind of development. It just wouldn't happen. There'd be serious opposition. Nobody would allow that to happen. We don't want to end up becoming San Bernardino or Moreno Valley, where we didn't put a proper fit in place. So I just want to say that not to be influenced in any way to pack more people into the area. I mean, why do we have to be like everybody else? Why can't we be Yucaipa? Why can't we be who we are? So I just want to basically state that people love that feeling. They go to Oakland, they go to different places. And who am I? Well, my grandparents owned the land that was used to bring that Oakland Road through. They owned the 55 acres that was there. And so, I've been here for many, many years. I love this town. I bought a little place here, and my son lives there. So that's why I know the people that live there know what they're talking about. And I think that really should be taken into consideration. You're our public servants, and you should care for its residents. Many have lived here for generations, like he spoke before, and we need to give proper planning for this area. I don't mind a developer making money, okay? But no matter what, we have to live with what they have profited on. And I really want to give that to consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that's all the speaker slips we received.
Okay.
And so normally, if the applicant wants to do a rebuttal, they can do that now.
Okay.
I do, thank you.
Yeah.
I just.
We had a little problem with it, but, you know, I like to have everybody have a
No,
chance to.
and I'm good with that. A few things I wanted to say, because, you know, when we moved here, our kids were young, right? Yucaipa is a place for children. It's a great town. It's a great town to grow up in. It's a great town to grow old in. It's a great town for just about everything. The school districts severely are low with children. It's a fact. I've sat and talked to Callie Banks. It's the way it is. The city needs apartments. Somewhere there has to be apartments. There's in 2008, they started a freeway corridor specific plan. The idea for getting that going on the other side of the freeway and doing commercial and residential and some upscale housing and so forth. And then in 2022, it really came to fruition where the city council said, "Yeah, let's pay for an EIR. Right? Let's get it going." So there is a plan to put apartments on the other side of the freeway, but we have no infrastructure. It's going to happen, but when's it going to happen? It's going to happen sometime in the future. There's a whole plan over there. It's a good plan. I've seen it. It's a nice plan. But when they decided to move forward with the freeway corridor specific plan, even Mayor Avila, prior to the vote, reminded council that and this is quoting him, that it was going to be a 10 to 15 year project before things would actually happen over there. You know, that's 2032 to 2037. And I'm guessing from what I know of development and infrastructure and everything else, it's probably a little longer than that. It's probably somewhere around 20 years. I think it's important because then we took 7 mobile home parks and we said, these are the worst of the worst at the time, and these have to be converted into multifamily. The mobile homes have to go in those 7 parks. I know there's been a lot of alarm recently about it. The parks aren't going anywhere because as soon as we labeled those mobile home parks as being needing to go in for multifamily, the owners increased their land value quite a bit. Nobody can pay for the land, can move the mobile homes, can help everybody get relocated and so forth. So where do we do it? Where do we put the mobile homes? Where do kids live? Where do the relatives live? You know, we all have our piece of Yucaipa. You know, and if we didn't have our piece of Yucaipa, we couldn't have a piece of Yucaipa unless we could afford to buy a home. But not everybody that wants to live in Yucaipa can afford to buy a home. You know, my son, when he left, he came back. He's still in Yucaipa. Luckily, through a project, we've been able to find him. He's got a house, you know, and my daughter as well. But he had to go different cities before that finally happened. You know, we need to take care of our kids. New kids are coming through the condo communities right now, but what about the single moms, the young couples, the young families? Where do they live in Yucaipa? How do you move to Yucaipa if there's no place to go? I don't know about you, but when my son played Little League, and I think some of you remember, Tony, there was 30, 35, 40 baseball teams, you know, it was loaded with what Little League was. It's not coming like that anymore. We need kids in Yucaipa so they can grow up with the same benefits that Travis and Brandy had. A good school system, Yucaipa Valley American Little League, National Little League, girls softball, youth basketball, Pee-wee T-ball, junior All-American football, junior All-American cheer, Yucaipa BMX, soccer, Yucaipa aquatics. The city widened the streets, put in more traffic lights. They've done a lot to make sure that we can continue to grow as a city. To grow, we need kids, and to grow, we need doors. We need residences. This is not a low-income housing project. It's not Section 8. It's not vouchers. It's none of those things. You know, we have a couple of those in the city, and those are senior projects at this point. This is market rate with about 14 units that will be for low income. Low income, as defined by the standards in affordable housing for 2023 Yucaipa, low income for a one-bedroom apartment is about $1,500, $1,500 to $1,600. So it's not like anybody's going to be move in that either can't afford to live in the apartment or can't afford something of that level. Most of if you go around town here, the bungalows is $2,100 one bedroom, $2,900 three bedroom. You know, so prices are up, and there are not a lot of places to rent in the city of Yucaipa, much less apartments. I think it's important to know that a few things were brought up. Sewer, when I first worked on a project at this property in 2006, sewer was at Kentucky and 14th Street. So you can see why it would be hard to build something that needed sewer. Now it's around the corner down Avenue D. I think it's at 15th Street. It's, you know, Yucaipa Water District has put in sewer in the area. It's been upgraded. We have the water. It's a very flat street. It was even hard to figure out how to get sewer down to Kentucky Street because there was hardly any slope on that street. I just think there's not many places to put apartments. That's some of the reasons why we go through general plan amendments and make things happen. I think it's a good location. I mean, there is the possibility of apartments on the boulevard. There are parts of Old Town Redlands or other parts of Redlands where, yeah, you wouldn't see apartments, but just go to the donut hole there, just, you know, go around where the shopping is and so forth. So, and the last thing is this city has done a great job on bringing new businesses to Yucaipa. You know, I know Travis and Brandy live on 13th Street down in Yucaipa, and I hear all the time, I'm going by Chipotle for dinner, I'm going by Panera Bread. Well, you need more of those people in this town to keep those businesses healthy, active, and making money. And I'm here if you have any questions. Yeah. Was that something?
I got a couple of things just to add. So just for clarification, there is no direct access to Yucaipa Boulevard from the project site. In order to get to Yucaipa Boulevard, you have to exit onto 14th Street and head north. If we did have access to that, then we probably wouldn't have had that weird kind of secondary fire access on the bottom of it. And then just again to touch on traffic, you know, everyone, you know, no one likes traffic. Everyone has their own kind of anecdotal experience and perception of, you know, what traffic looks like and how that'll impact a neighborhood, you know. And so at some point there has to be that kind of level of, you know, what is acceptable, what can work within the context of this neighborhood. And that's why there are these kind of industry standards, you know, for that level of impact. And so when we're reviewing that on traffic, it's based off of that standard. And so just to kind of touch up on that.
I'm sorry, two last things, and I promise I'll sit down. One is the doctor's right. This is, I think there's a few things that are important here. There are a multitude of one-bedroom apartments. There are, I think, if you watch the city council meeting from the other night between San Bernardino Valley College and Crafton Hills, there are 23,000 students. So there are students that do need places to live, and nothing that's going to be built in the area as quickly as this is. Number two, the frontage across the front of the property is 202 feet. And other than the fire exit and the basin potentially park, there is 26 feet of exit across the front there. So it's not like there's a lot of frontage there that fronts into the neighborhood onto 14th Street. And with that, I will let you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, with that, we'll close public comment. Commissioners, any questions? Donna?
I'd like to get answers to some of the questions that were brought up. When Mr. Crawford was talking about the apartment complex across, I think you said Yucaipa Boulevard. Why was it moved here? Was it Yucaipa Boulevard or across Interstate 10? I'm confused where the original proposal was, or was there an original proposal?
So I think it may be a conflation of two separate projects. So this is the only apartment project that the applicants are proposing because they own, the Moss Family Foundation owns this particular piece of property. There is a mixed-use project approval or kind of layout overlay district for the College Village. So where Sand Canyon loops around and Yucaipa Boulevard, that stretch of land is subject to the city's Grafton Hills College a corridor kind of overlay district. And so there are kind of standards there, but that is a separate project, separate ownership, different discussions for what governs that site versus what's proposed tonight.
Okay, and I did not look at the zoning map. This is multifamily, this lot is multifamily RM10 currently, and it's being surrounded by single family right now?
So the property itself is designated multifamily, and as shown on the map on the screen, all the surrounding properties, with the exception of those to the north that's zoned commercial, it is all zoned multifamily. There are a number of single-family residences surrounding it, but the zoning already is for a multifamily type.
It's all multifamily zoning, okay. Hang on a second, opposed, let's see, the 14th connected. I think the rest of these other ones were answered during the rebuttal. So, I'm okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don. Any other questions?
Just a quick question for engineering is, I know Avenue D has a stop sign. It's not a four-way stop at Avenue D and 14th.
No, I don't believe it is.
Okay. Yeah, I concur with one of the observations. People drive really fast along that street, so I was just curious.
Yeah, I believe we have done a warrant analysis at that intersection before, and it was not met. If that is something that we can look at doing again in the future. But I think it's also important to note that both Yucaipa Boulevard and 14th Street, those are arterial streets, so they are built for more traffic than the other nearby streets.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Richard? Stacy? I have just a couple of questions, if we could. On the traffic study, Ben, of course, we don't have a copy of the traffic study. We don't have purview of that. And Katrina, at what point do you have to do a traffic study for a project?
So the traffic study is part of the online packet, but we do have for the printed packet that was provided for everyone in the resource table. There is a traffic study that was done, traffic analysis. There's kind of a few different things. So when it comes to the traffic analysis, at least in terms of environmental impact, what we're looking at is the vehicle miles traveled. As a general concept or kind of precept is that if you have higher density activity where you have high resource amenities, usually results in a reduction of VMT, and so this project is no exception. It is a low VMT area. The land use itself contributes to that low VMT kind of threshold, and so there's no significant impacts there. When it comes to kind of the level of service, so when you're looking at intersection kind of performance or kind of the wait time that you would have at a intersection, that's the level of service. It's not a CEQA environmental impact, but it's certainly an environment that people, that are sitting in the traffic certainly feel, and it is a inconvenience. And so as part of the traffic impact analysis guidelines that the city has, level of service is required when there's more than 100 trips in the either AM or PM peak hour, 51 trips to any intersection, or when there's other conditions that warrant it from the city engineer. As noted in, I think, both Christian and Travis's discussions, the peak trips in an hour at an intersection is 44 trips. Traffic's always kind of hard to wrap your head around. You go, okay, I have 144 units. You have 2 people maybe in the household, so then you double the traffic, and that's how much cars are going there. The reality is traffic's spread around kind of throughout the day, and so it isn't necessarily a monolith of, okay, you have 144, 2 people, all leaving to go to work at 7 o'clock, all coming back at 6 o'clock. It doesn't operate that way, and so it gets spread out. And so as part of the Institute of Traffic Engineers, they have kind of their thresholds and how they balance out what those ratios are. And so as you amortize the total number of people that are coming and going, that is what gets you the percentage. And so based on what is in the ITE manual, That's where you get, based on this project, the 44 peak trips in an hour at an intersection, which is below the 50 that would trigger the level service requirement.
Okay. And as far as utilities go, I'm sure you have to have a will serve letter from both Yucaipa Valley and from Western Heights that they'll provide.
Yeah.
And they do have that, I assume?
Yeah, so that was provided as part of the condition of the project submittal and deeming it complete. The applicant or the project developer will be responsible for extending the sewer from, I believe, 15th Street to the project site. And then certainly if any neighbors want to connect to sewer, they are more than free to do it. Just because they extend it doesn't mean that those neighbors are not required to do it. But that is something that does happen, but the applicant will be responsible for that extension.
So I guess that was my next question. So with the extension of sewer line, the neighbors are not required to tie into it like we were, 39 years ago when the sewer came into town?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the water district compelling anyone, but they certainly provide that flexibility. And if someone has an older septic tank, that may be worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm just guessing that our levels of effluent that are going through septic systems are below what state requires. So it's not mandated any longer if you're not on it. And then, so how large of an area, or you said the current zoning is for multifamily? Where is, or how large of an area does that encompass, the multifamily?
So in the Dunlap Acres area, it kind of spreads. We don't have a full zoom out of the entire general plan area for it, but in this kind of localized vicinity, it is north of Avenue D, kind of along the entire stretch of Yucaipa Boulevard is all multifamily zoning. And then there are pockets where it drops down closer to Avenue E as you get to the periphery. So if you kind of look at the Dunlap Acres as a whole, kind of bounded by Oakland Road and then Dunlap Boulevard and then Yucaipa Boulevard, as you kind of get to the edges, you have your commercial and industrial districts, depending where you're at with respect to the different roadways. And then you have kind of the multifamily, and then it becomes more the single family in the interior of the site. As you get kind of further in. And part of Dunlap itself has a much higher zone capacity than what's currently built there. Historically, Dunlap itself was subject to a lot of flooding and mud flow issues. The city has done a tremendous job over the years to reduce those flood impacts. And so there's photos of Dunlap Elementary, back in the 60s, completely covered in mud. That is a condition that no longer applies, and so those owners are no longer subject to the same flood insurance requirements. And so that's kind of why you're seeing this transitional kind of period between what was there, where was a physical hardship or environmental issue with that flood zone, and that no longer is the case today.
Okay. And so everything that's in yellow or ochre or whatever you want to call it on this map, is that all multifamily zoned?
That is correct.
It is, okay. So everything in that area is all RM10 currently?
That is correct.
Okay. And so with this application, they're asking for a higher density to RM24.
Yeah. So it's still a multifamily land use, but the density is higher.
Okay. And is there anything that's in that area that's currently zoned RM24?
The closest kind of idea as kind of reference the city's housing element does include a commercial corridor mixed use overlay. We are working on the specific standards, but City Council, as part of the housing element, established the idea of anywhere between 14th Street to 2nd Street in the commercial corridor would fall under that overlay, and it would provide flexibility for a 24 unit per acre mixed use project. So it would allow for the 24 units per acre plus some sort of commercial component as part of the housing element. There is a unit cap to that kind of total. It's our kind of workaround for some of the affordable housing. So if another project comes in that we had planned for at a lower level, then we can upgrade that number and kind of keep it there without having to rezone a bunch of sites with good projects. And
so as it stands, though, anyone that's in that current RM10 could come in and make an application for a similar project like this with the RM24 and a density bonus for low income or for a senior development or whatever?
So the people kind of around it, so the answer to that is kind of a yes or a no. Some of the smaller sites may be too small to actually develop as a RM24 site.
Right.
But they could certainly submit an application for an apartment complex with the standard RM10M. The one exception I would say would be probably the Whippert site to the east, just because that is a larger, relatively unimproved parcel. And so that one, because of how much area they have, could probably qualify for that RM24 rezone and actually build a viable project based on the additional space that they have and the minimum lot size that they would also have for that.
But if someone wanted to come in and buy 5, 6, 8 lots that were all connected, then they could come in and apply for.
Yeah, if they were trying to consolidate something, then
Let's
that,
say
we could explore that.
what is that number? How many acres do you need, or?
So it
before
would
you
be coming up with the minimum lot size of about an acre would be kind of the threshold for that. If it's contiguous with it, then it would still meet the minimum district size, so that issue would be resolved through that. So if it is the cluster that's just directly west of kind of the L shape, or even to the south, if someone were to acquire all that hypothetically, and kind of combine it into one lot, then yeah, they could certainly pursue a similar request.
Okay. And then my final thing is just a point of clarification for, this project, we received the package on it last week. As a body that reviews projects, a planning commission, we have no input into these projects whatsoever. They're just presented to us. They come into the city, and our job is only to look at it, ask questions, hear everybody's position on it, understand or be presented with the developer's project and what he intends to do, listen to public comments, and then make a decision on it based on that. I can assure you that there's no, at least from these 5 people or 4 people that are up here with me, we have no knowledge of this project before it comes before us. I've never seen it before. We all were asked if we had any ex parte communication or had ever talked to, I've never met the developer. I don't know the Moss family at all. And so I just want folks to understand, we're just people that have either asked or volunteered to be on a planning commission or other things. So we appreciate you coming in. We appreciate hearing everybody's comments, and thank you for coming. So thank you very much. And so with that, any other questions, commissioners? Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
So it's actually a recommendation.
Oh, a
to the
recommendation,
city
right.
council.
Recommendation with,
And then just to clarify, since the applicant identified that they did want to do architecture review, is there any feedback on the renderings that were provided that we should address before we complete the package for city council as well?
I have one suggestion where it said that it was I think a painted trellis on one of the pictures. I lived for 2 years in an apartment like this when I was almost homeless, so that's another reason I'm in favor of this. Could that be, instead of painted wood, could you make it powder-coated metal on the trellis? Because it turned rotten in about 2 years' time because the maintenance was lax.
and it is a block wall,
Yeah,
correct?
that's what I was gonna say
Yeah.
too.
So with a block wall, and you'll have probably additional renderings for city council,
That
I'm
would be
guessing.
what I would recommend that too.
Yeah, and a little more detail on it.
Yeah, we'll work with the applicant to make sure that that package is thorough for the architectural review approval, but just want to make sure that the renderings were on top, so. Yeah.
So would you like to amend your,
I'll amend my motion.
okay. And your second on the amended motion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One.
One. So 4-1. Motion carries.
All right, and this will be scheduled for city council, and so the property owners surrounding the site will receive a separate notice for the hearing date for that meeting.
We're good. So agenda item number 3. And that's Sorensen Engineering, case number 23-080.
Thank you again, Honorable Vice Chair and Planning Commissioners. Today, we bring before you case number 23-080, a conditional use permit with architectural review for the phased development of a manufacturing facility, with phase 1 consisting of a 25,548 square foot structure, and phase 2 consisting of the remaining 23,300 square feet, for a total structure of 48,848 square feet, located on an approximately 1.4 acre property, located currently at 12621 and 12619 17th Street, approximately 150 feet north of Dunlap Boulevard, located at APNs 0301, 12226, and 27. This would also be consolidated through a lot merger as a quick note. So again, it's located at a 1.4 acre site on the east side of 17th Street. It is a relatively flat lot with light manufacturing on the east and south, and a single residential to the north and west. Dunlap Boulevard and I-10 freeway are further to the south, and the two lots were previously improved with non-conforming residents that have since been removed, and the land is within the IC land use district. So the conditional use permit, a little bit of background. Sorensen Engineering is a manufacturing company that specializes in high precision micro machining technologies, and they propose a 48,848 square foot building that is to be built in 2 phases, designed to operate independently as needed. And the project will share a parking agreement with the neighboring site, which has excess parking. As a part of the project, they also propose an 8-foot perimeter block wall to tie in with the adjacent development and to provide enhanced security for the site. And it is located across, again, 2 parcels that will need to be merged as a condition of approval for the project. There are a couple of renderings on the screen of the final development. So again, as a phased project, the first phase would consist of a 25,548 square foot structure, with the first floor with areas designated for lab space, office space, and a plating area with additional restrooms, and the second floor designed as a mezzanine storage area. As a part of the first phase, there would be street improvements along 17th Street, as well as a commercial drive approach and fire lane. We do have a couple of renderings in the floor plan for phase 1 above. Phase 2, we have the colored renderings for the final site, so those are shown above, is outlined as a 23,000 square foot planned expansion with the final layout to be determined at a later date. The applicant has submitted a phased approach to ensure that the project is reviewed with a fully integrated design, but anticipating further expansion and what exactly that use might be, they want to leave a little bit of flexibility in order to meet their future demand. And so the site plans attached include site plans, landscaping plans, and elevations that illustrate that phased development approach. So the architectural style of the building is slightly industrial with design ties that pull in with a neighboring development, utilizing horizontal ribbed metal siding along the bottom and vertical ribbed metal siding on the top half. The building's Street-facing facade includes flat metal siding and windows to provide additional articulation, with colors that will be a mixture of pearl gray, slate gray, charcoal gray, and for the siding, and roof trim and doors that will be painted safety red. The landscaping, again, is designed to have a phased approach, and further is designed to complement the building design and provide a visual screen along the perimeter of the site. It includes forest pansy eastern redbuds along the right-of-way, as well as a mix of ornamental grasses and shrubs, and long-leafed yellowwood and a mixture of perimeter shrubs between the sensitive use to the north, which is a single-family residence. As a part of the project notice for this, notices were sent to all property owners within 300 feet, and one written response was received voicing support for the project. As a part of the environmental review, as an acre that is smaller than 5 acres, pursuant to section 15332 of the CEQA guidelines, this project qualifies for a class 32 environmental exemption. And based on the 48,848 square foot of building on 1.37 acres, as well as the credit for the 2 single-family residences that were demolished, the project would be expected per the 2022-2023 development impact fee schedule to generate $253,769.34, as seen above. Here is a site photo of the existing site. Currently is cleared of the previous non-conforming residences, and a block wall is being built in between the neighboring use to kind of provide some privacy during any construction. And therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, approve the conditional use permit subject to the conditions of approval, adopt the findings for the conditional use permit as contained in the agenda report, adopt a categorical exemption, section 15332 or class 32, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption. That one was a little bit quicker. We do have the applicant here as well to provide any additional context that may be needed, or if you guys have any questions for staff.
All right, thank you, Christian. Any questions, commissioners?
I do have one question. On that, not that rendering, I think it was that one right there. Is that gonna be a big deck on the top where the railing is on top of that roof?
The applicant can probably fill in, but
okay.
but it's been designed similar to the other buildings. That'll be usually where their rooftop equipment is screened, and so they've.
Oh,
done it
that's
with
more of a
few their-
screen wall than a, oh, okay.
Yeah, so they've done it with a few. They do have, if you kind of look at the building design, it does tilt a little bit, so there's an angle
slope
to it,
roof.
and so
Yeah.
a few other buildings on the Sorensen complex utilize the same architectural design to help screen the rooftop units while providing adequate ventilation for the operations below.
For the buildings, yeah, okay.
Before we have the applicant come up, any other questions for staff? Nobody? Okay, sir, thank you.
Good evening, Shan McNaughton, architect for the project, and it's a collaboration with Javier as well. So I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay. Any questions, anyone?
I have one, and it may be facetious, but I just want to make sure that we're approving part of the project tonight.
So we
Or
would be
are we
approving
approving the
entire
whole-
project. The reason that they present it as a phased project is so that you can review the project in its entirety and kind of see,
Okay.
you know, what is this going to be like in 10 years if we provide an approval
And
today.
then, but you said you're not sure what the other is going to be used for yet.
We're, the specific use of phase 2 is not yet known, but the specific design will be what you see there.
Okay.
That's not.
So
gonna
it won't
change.
come back to us
Yeah.
after this. All right, because I'm going to get in trouble now, but I just want to make sure that that's not going to be a marijuana warehouse in the future. Since you don't know what you're doing yet.
There's no money.
I don't think they're
can
branching
assure you,
into
it will
that.
not.
We can add that
I'm
as a
just
condition.
making
Do engineering.
some type of machine processing.
Okay. Any other? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll open public comment.
No public comment.
No public comment.
No public comments received on this item.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions for staff or any other comments?
I just have watched Sorensen's complex grow over the years, and I just have to compliment Sorensen and the owners and also the architects. These are really attractive buildings, and I think they're utility or manufacturing buildings, but they do a good job. They set well off the freeway, so I think it's a great project. Appreciate the fact that they're investing in this community and growing their business.
Yes.
I was gonna kind of mirror that because they are one of the largest engineering companies, and they provide a lot of professional jobs for our residents, so it's definitely welcomed here in Yucaipa.
All right. Thank you. With that, we'll close public comment. And any motions?
I'll move the project.
I second.
Sans pot.
First from Donna. Real good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 5-0, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Anything, Ben?
I do have a few announcements. One, we will have a planning commission meeting in December. The first one, I think it's December 6th is the date, but that should be the last one of the year. A few updates as well. The city's density bonus ordinance and the Uptown Specific Plan Amendment that the Planning Commission had previously weighed in on was approved by the City Council at Monday's City Council meeting, so that's very exciting news. Additionally, for those that were part of the Wine Country Specific Plan process, the environmental review should be hitting the streets before the next Planning Commission meeting, so that will be there. As soon as that EIR is available, we'll send you guys a link. That way you guys aren't trying to read as many pages in a hurry as I've had to do with environmental documents and the rest of my workload. And so
That was December 6th, right?
yeah. So we're shooting for probably the week after Thanksgiving that will be on the streets.
Okay.
And
Can I add that today, the city attorney wrote a letter that covers the city council and the planning commission over the specific plan, the Wine Country specific plan, that it's a legislative action and we don't have to, the Brown Act does not preclude us to discussing that and what that entitles, because it's a legislative action and it's not a project, a specific project.
Okay.
I didn't know if you got that today.
I do know, or yeah, the understanding. So certainly for those that participated in the preparation of a specific plan, you guys aren't necessarily the project applicants, but you guys can speak to your experience and how that project developed and certainly the experience. And that is helpful because those that did participate in that process, including Commissioner Hitz Vice Chair Hitz and Donna, you guys spent a lot of time on that, and it's certainly worthwhile to highlight. Two last things. One, Maria did send out the email regarding the Plan Commissioners Academy held by the League of California Cities. I have had two commissioners reach out, Donna and David, and so if anyone else is interested, let me know. We will try to prioritize those that have not gone before, but if not, Donna and David will have fun out in Long Beach.
And when is that? I'm sorry.
It's the first, yeah.
I thought it was March 6th through the 8th.
Yeah, March 6th through the 8th.
6th through the 8th.
And so if you guys are interested, please let us know. We'll try to reach out to everyone and try to get that officially set up. We do have some budget for that. Can't take everyone, but we'll try to work through that. And then the last is just want to send a congratulations. Maddie was not here today because she got married. She technically has her formal party tomorrow, but today was the wedding at the church. For me, Preciado, or director, did get to crash it, but just want to highlight that was a great milestone for a young professional. And so with that, that's all I have. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and see you guys in December.
Thank you. With that, we'll close. Yeah, can I?
One more comment.
Yes, sir.